First and foremost, we're a project about raising awareness of the heritage of this part of the city. Because we'd had widespread demolition in the 1960s and 70s, we'd lost a lot of the physical signs of what the history of this area had been. So we still had remnants of a village green, but the buildings around it had all been lost apart from the historic almshouses and the church. So we really wanted to tell more of that story in a physical way with the works we did in the park outside, but also in the events and activities we do, so people understand that this was a medieval core in their now modern city.
Sunderland has many, many beautiful heritage buildings, and to have an opportunity to secure funding to support our buildings and restore them and bring them back into the community is absolutely amazing. We want to be able to drive forward the tourism and cultural agenda in the city, and this project has absolutely supported that offer.
Our scheme was funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund, and Sunderland has received over £35 million in that fund in the last 10 years. So we've funded projects at Hilton Castle, Rocky Pier Lighthouse. The old fire station had its own lottery grant, as did this building, and the Minster had its own grant for repairs. And then we received £1.9 million in 2018 to fund the Townscape Heritage Scheme. And it's all part of that heritage-led regeneration jigsaw. So in this part of the city centre, we're really focused on building restoration as well as the fabric improvements to the streets and the spaces.
The residents of the almshouses have been absolutely thrilled with the improvements in the property. We were lucky enough to receive funding for the wall at the back to help to restore that, an ancient wall. And the actual windows have been renewed, restored, painted.
So Bishopwearmouth is one of the 3 original settlements of Sunderland. We had Wearmouth across the river, Bishopwearmouth in this part of the city centre, and Sunderland by the Sea, which was the original fishing port, which is now a big urban base. So Bishopwearmouth always had the church on the mound, so this particular building is nearly 1100 years old. We had the village green and buildings surrounding it in what was an agricultural settlement originally in a very large parish. During the Industrial Revolution, we had massive expansion in population, so this area saw waves of redevelopment. We had lots of 19th century terrace houses added to the mansion houses that once surrounded the green, and then waves of redevelopment over through the 20th century. Some of our big landmark buildings are from that early part of the 20th century, so buildings like the Empire Theatre, the Peacock and the Dun Cow were all built around the same time, all reaching for the skyline in the way that the church always had.
Well, this part of the city is really thriving at the moment. You know, we're seen as the cultural quarter of the city and the developments that are ongoing on at the moment. And I just think the scheme, you know, really has invested in what was been here for so long and just protecting all of these fabulous buildings for the long-term future.
Before this project started, I used to come down to Sunderland and never even look at the buildings in the town or how the town was laid out. Used to pass this church on several occasions on my boozy nights out and without even thinking twice about it. But since the project, I've started to look online, look at the history.
So a big part of the scheme was to fund restoration works to some of our buildings, particularly the listed buildings, because we've got a lot of big landmark and Edwardian buildings here, and it's trying to make them in the best repair possible so that we can increase occupancy and the activity in those buildings can be more prosperous.
So we've really benefited from the scheme. We had some works that some people can't see to the roof, but obviously also to the stained glass windows, to the side elevation, and it just really helps protect this building for the long-term future.
So we funded repairs to 12 properties throughout the scheme over the last 6 years, and those range from smaller listed buildings to some of the big Edwardian landmarks, from roof repairs, chimney repairs, lead work, shop fronts, repair of historic features and the kind of enhancement works to those. And a real focus is about the group appearance and enhancement of the whole area. So we've tried to do building by building as we work along High Street West and round into Low Row so that everything is uplifted together.
Well, one of the key problems on particularly stone buildings, which is the Peacock and the Dun Cow particularly, is the use of non-historic materials, particularly cement mortar. Prevents the stone from breathing and the stone starts to deteriorate quite rapidly. So we had a lot of stone replacement undertake, particularly on the Peacock, and take out all the poor cement pointing, coupled with the roof on the Peacock was in a poor state. So it's all about trying to restore them sympathetically So sash window timber work is a specialist repair needed, and the lead work on the roofs is also something which needs careful attention to keep the rain out.
I was involved in 8 research projects for the sort of social and physical history of the village, of which the most interesting one to me was Church Lane, where I found a bundle of documents going back to 1709, totally by chance, in the archives at Tyne and Wear. Following that, there was a pub history project, and I looked at half a dozen pubs. And again, I found some interesting things. For example, the Londonderry was never really, so he was almost not rebuilt on the site. There was a suggestion that the licence should have been transferred to Pallion, and there was a suggestion that the site should be used as a civic square. Fortunately, it came to nothing, and we've got that lovely building that's the Peacock now.
We really enjoy working in heritage because there are so many interesting stories and interesting people who have shaped and changed the city that we live in. And what's wonderful about Sunderland is that a lot of those people are kind of normal, everyday, working people who have made a lasting impact. So for us as a site responsive and a specialist theatre company to be able to tell those stories and kind of go, you know, this is what this person did, give them a voice, make sure that other people know about them, that's really exciting in a way that, you know, working with the traditional script is very different from.
I played Tommy Sanderson, who was the local town crier, who had a very colourful up and down type of life, and ended up being a famous poet in his time. Yeah, so quite enjoyed it.
Oh yes, and in final notice, with the current trend of cockfighting and bull baiting being in full vogue, reports of rowdyism have prevailed over this weekend past.
I enjoyed actually getting interested in what Tommy was doing in his life, and I thought about the analogies between, or later on I thought about the analogies between somebody's life then and somebody's life now, and really it's not that much different. There's people go through hard times and better times now, so you know.
So we focused on doing a textile piece with a variety of sewing techniques and give people free rein as to the topics, but focused it on the Bishopwearmouth area. And so we had a lovely project over quite a few months and produced a lovely banner that's now hanging in the Minster that represents lots of the skills, ideas, heritage and actually family connections of the people, and even with some of the people who were involved lived in the almshouses behind me as well. So it was very lovely to bring everything together.
So my piece for the banner was based on Vesta Tilly and how she did the foundation stone of the Southern Empire, and it's become what it has today.
We also did a screen printing project to engage people who were a little bit more outside the central area of Sunderland with the history of the area.
I love meeting like-minded people and just being around others who really uplifted you. You learned skills off them, you learned them skills. It was a real community effort, and I loved the feel of being a part of something.
Oh well, it makes a cohesive space, I think, and it lifts the whole area. Having one building done just is not going to be sufficient to enhance the area, and certainly it's changed along with the landscaping, made such a difference in the area.
And I think everybody really felt that we'd brought them together.
It's all part of our cultural heritage, and I'm still doing research on the Bishopwearmouth area.
We've had just a lot more people through the door involved in things that we wouldn't otherwise have met, and it really has been just a lovely experience.